south of Tunis, they held ideal terrain for defence, a tangle of hills and ravines where the eastern and western dorsal converged. West of Tunis, the line had remained static for months, and the Axis defences were well organised and difficult to breach. Strong points and commanding heights had to be bludgeoned by artillery and then stormed by infantry. In late April and early May, the Axis bridgehead was hammered remorselessly. Some 16 Allied divisions mounted a series of coordinated offensives, while above them the Allied air forces bombed, blasted and strafed almost with impunity. In early May, the thin Axis crust began to crack, and gaps appeared as the defenders were driven back or pushed aside. On May the 6th, a concerted British effort southwest of Tunis rolled over 15th Panzer, virtually annihilating the veteran desert formation. The breach opened the road to Tunis and threw the Axis defenders into disarray. The last few days of the battle for North Africa saw disorganized and futile fighting in virtually every sector. Tunis fell on the 7th, as did Bizerta, but the fighting continued regardless. Hitler's orders to fight to the last man and the last round ensured that the battle was prolonged unnecessarily, and at the cost of hundreds of lives that might otherwise have been spared. South of Tunis, in the hills above Amphidaville, the remnants of the Afrika Korps held out until the 13th. They were amongst the last to lay down their arms. The final toll of prisoners taken in the closing days of the Tunisian campaign came to nearly 250,000, half of them German. Some of these soldiers had never fired a shot and had only recently arrived from Europe, when the battle for Tunisia was all but lost. Such had been Hitler's determination to hold a bridgehead in Africa. The campaign in North Africa laid the foundations for future Allied successes on the continent of Europe. American soldiers had been tested on the battlefield, and after early setbacks had recovered well and fought bravely. The French North African forces had been brought back into the Allied camp, ending a long period of enforced neutrality and enabling the British and Americans to assume the mantle of liberators rather than of conquerors. A common Allied command structure was established, and the various component armies welded into one homogeneous force. But the greatest single achievement of the campaign was the scale of the victory. 2 entire armies, one German and one Italian, had been utterly destroyed, and the last traces of Axis power and influence had been swept from the continent of Africa. Victory in North Africa also provided the Allies with a springboard for operations against Italy. In July, an Allied invasion of Sicily would quickly lead to the dismissal of Mussolini and efforts by the new Italian government to negotiate an armistice. These efforts were doomed from the outset. In September, Italy was in turn occupied by the Germans and invaded by the Allies. The ensuing battle for Italy would be one of the most protracted and bitterly fought contests of World War II.